Welcome, everybody, to the Aravosis Report, Monday, June 19th. John Aravosis here, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. As always, let me get TikTok rolling here on my iPad. Let's change the title since we are not doing a coffee talk today. This is a Ukraine war update. And then we will get the show rolling. Ukraine war update. That works. Go live. Woo-woo! There we go. Oh, hello all. I've got sunlight coming in today, but we'll deal. It hopefully isn't going to be too bright to muck with the screen. It does that sometimes. But it was raining and now it's not, and very confusing. Anyway, hello all. Welcome. Introduce yourselves if you would. Just kind of say where you're from. Oops, got my TikTok moving over here. There we go. Just if you wouldn't mind saying where you guys are from. I think it's always a nice way to start the show, if you would. As I said, I am in Washington, D.C. Woo woo, capital of not very exciting. Thank you, Succeed, for the gift on TikTok. We've got a lot of, okay. All right, a little bit of a mistake I did on the font today, but we'll live. A lot of news today. No sound. Okay. Being evil, TikTok, of course. Hold on. Unplugging and plugging back in. There we go. Now we're going to see if the TikTok picks up. It'll pick up sound originally from me unplugging, but hopefully the plug back in is there sound right now. I'm sorry, guys. Keep introducing yourselves. TikTok, is it gone again? Oh, it's loose connection. It shouldn't be a loose connection. Hang on. TikTok, don't be evil to me. I mean, I could leave it unplugged if we have to, but if it's unplugged, then try one more time here, evil TikTok. Well, that's because I unplugged entirely. We're trying one more time with TikTok with my mic plugged in. That's because it's unplugged. Now, how is it? Is it gone again? Okay, then I'm leaving TikTok unplugged. You are going to get my room microphone on TikTok, which is still fine. It's going to be, because I'm in a big room. Not in a big room, but my room has like tall ceilings, so you'll get a little reverb, but you'll survive. Anyway, introduce yourselves if you would, gang, TikTokers, YouTubers, etc. As I said, we've got a lot of news today. A lot of short takes as well. So some of it isn't super long news, which is good, but interesting. Anyway, it's an interesting news day. It's not a bad news day, but kind of a mix. A lot more news than I thought there was going to be today, actually. Anyway, let me get rolling here. So thank you for the gift there, John. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. to talk about the latest news from Ukraine. The way the show works, I will talk about the news for the first half hour, maybe 45 minutes. The stuff I think is important, and then what I think is actually going on with the news. And then afterwards, we will do a question and answer, take your guys' questions. I very much appreciate your guys' gifts because, as I always explain, I do this full time, and I've been doing it since the war broke out. Instead of doing my normal consulting work, this is my work. I am not independently wealthy, and nobody pays me except you guys. So please do keep the gifts coming because the gifts literally make it possible for me to do this. Those would be the gifts on TikTok, and I will always do a shout out when I see the gift. The gifts that fly on the screen, TikTok makes it very difficult to see them, I will tell you. From my end, but when things get busy, but I will try to do a link and tattooed there. Excuse me. And for you guys over on YouTube, thank you, Link, for the hat on TikTok. For the rest of you guys, super chat and super stickers are very welcome as well. And as a thank you, I will always get to a super chat question next if I see it. And if I don't, the mods will point it out and scold me. Thank you, Soren, for the super sticker. And thank you, Tom C, for the heart. All right, let me get rolling here. So Allie is doing a very generous beach gift on TikTok. Thank you, Allie. So I want to start with general news on the counteroffensive. Thank you, user, for that. And who is that? Tom with the hat. And then we'll go into some of the detailed attacks and things that have been happening today. Thanks, Edsel. So there were some reports in the last day, Wall Street Journal. There were a couple. Oops, sorry. You guys are throwing a lot at me here. Just so I'm going to try. Thank you, damn. Ellie. Oh, my nose is itching. Ellie. And a couple other ones. Oh, Ellie sent the heart. Thank you. So there's been a couple of reports. One, Institute for the Study of War kind of weighed in. Then the Wall Street Journal talking about how Ukraine might, thank you, Cheryl, might be slowing down the attack for the next week to kind of evaluate where they are. Overall, the Russians have done a decent job actually in fighting back. They're doing better than they did before. Thank you, Ron. But when I say before, I mean before with the counteroffensive, right? Before the counteroffensive, and it is possible that the Ukrainians are stepping back a little and trying to reevaluate, and they're also reevaluating with their NATO allies because we also thank you, Ellie, for that, guys. You guys are great. I appreciate the gifts on TikTok. Let me give you a couple of details here. So this is from Sky News, but quoting the other guys. Thank you, Lee. Kyiv's forces may have temporarily halted their counteroffensive to reevaluate their tactics for future operations, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Estonian Defense Forces Intelligence Center Colonel Margo Grossberg said on June 16th that in his assessment, we won't see an offensive over the next 7 days. So the Estonians are saying they think possibly Ukraine's going to hold off for a week and again, confer with NATO and kind of say, okay. And actually, by the way, this isn't a bad thing. Thank you, Black Lab. This isn't a bad thing. The whole point of this stage of the counteroffensive is for Ukraine to test the Russians and see how their defenses are working. Remember, we've talked about how Ukraine has not even gotten to the main Russian defenses. The main Russian defenses are to the south, maybe 10 miles south, 16 kilometers, it depends. But this part of the attack, certainly Ukraine has gotten, I know every time, Doopy's right, every time my nose itches, a Russian ammo depot blows up, which we're going to talk about that. Ukraine actually blew up a number of ammunition depots of the Russians today. Any case, like I said, these are sort of tests right now. Thank you, Nico. These are tests right now. Thank you, Monica and Lee. So that it's not really a big deal that Ukraine's, if they're holding back at all. Now, the reason I say that is because according to the New York Times, I'm going to go through a number of different stories here, okay? According to the New York Times, Russia, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. You know what's funny? I've been doing this show for now like 15 months. And whenever I take off on a weekend, I'm not take off, but thank you, Timothy, meaning I didn't do the show Saturday and Sunday. I do Monday to Friday. I actually am rusty on Monday. It's the funniest thing. It's just the weirdest thing. I'm like totally rusty on Monday doing the show. Like I get into the rhythm of it, even though I've been doing it for 15 months now. It's crazy. Although itching nose isn't helping, but that starts whenever I start the show. It's got to be like psychosomatic. The New York Times, a British Defense Intelligence report said on Sunday that both armies were suffering significant casualties, and military experts say that months of artillery duels and trench warfare will likely lie ahead as Kyiv's forces try to break through the heavy fortified Russian line. In other words, as I've been telling you for a while, we ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to get worse before it gets better. The fighting is going to get harder and harder, and there's going to be a lot of losses on the Russian side and the Ukrainian side. I just like to point that out because, people need to sort of have a realistic expectation of what's coming. It's going to be scary. A different New York Times article says the Russians have improved their defenses, artillery coordination, and air support, setting up a campaign that could look very different from the war's early days. That's what I was telling you earlier, which is why I think it might be possible that Ukraine might be slowing things down a little bit and talking to the allies, because not just Ukraine, but we and all the NATO allies, I don't want to say we underestimated, but basically the Russians ended up learning a little bit from what they've done till now, which is new for the Russians. They tend not to learn a lot. Looks like they might have learned a little bit in terms of using their airfare and other defenses. So not a bad thing if Ukraine's slowing down. These improvements, Western officials say, will most likely make Russia a tougher opponent, particularly as it fights defensively against Ukraine's counteroffensives. Voila. Now, the good news. Ukraine blew up a lot of Russian ammunition depots in the last day or so. Wall Street Journal, I think it was the Journal, was saying 12 of them, which is crazy. These ammunition stockpiles. Let me just read you some of this. They blew up a big one in Rykove in South Kherson. Rykove, I thought I looked up in Rykove. I may not have looked at it. So Kherson, the province overall, Russians control the southern part. So they blew up one in this province that was huge. They blew up a second one that was really big near the town of Kherson, but on the south side over here. These are ammunition storage, basically. They also blew up another 10, according to, I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what? I saw the story and I didn't copy it. I think it was according to the Wall Street Journal. So that the Ukrainians blew up like 12 ammunition depots in this area, looks like it, in the last day. what they were saying on Sky News, some of the experts there, that certainly suggests the Ukrainians, thank you, Lori, might be planning an attack in Kherson itself sometime soon. Now, remember, the three big attacks that have been going on so far from the Ukrainians are up here near Bakhmut, over here, kind of southwest of Donetsk, over here, a number of little towns that the Ukrainians grabbed, heading towards Mariupol, but kind of coming down, a little bit like this, and then over here in this area, okay, in Zaporizhia. What we're having now is a number of big attacks of ammunition depots all the way over here. That's interesting. Now, what Michael Clark was saying on Fox News, who's one of the big military experts, really interesting guy, he was saying that it's possible the Ukrainian, here's the thing he said. No matter what, the Ukrainians are clearly playing a little bit of a game with the Russians, which Ukrainians do. There are some reports today that Ukraine may have even moved troops across the water here from the northern area of the river, which Ukraine controls. South is where the Russians control. Keep in mind, south is the area and north is the area the Russians flooded by blowing up the dam. But it looks like, here's Kherson. Right next to Kherson is Nova Kakhovka. It looks like the Ukrainians may have brought some troops across the river, which we didn't think of happening this early. Not clear how many, not clear if it's the beginning of a larger invasion. But what Michael Clark on Sky News was saying was, it looks like at the very least, Ukraine could have done this just to freak out the Russians. And the idea is, if Ukraine now has some troops crossing here, and Ukraine blew up a number of ammunition depots in the area, which is something you would do if you were planning on attacking that area, Ukraine may be trying to freak the Russians out, thank you, Achilles, and try to force the Russians to bring troops back here. What happened? Russia, everyone believes, blew up the dam. The dam is here. The dam blows up. This area floods. This area floods, kills Russian troops, floods Russian troops. Thank you, Red Watts. And a number of the Russian troops that survive leave the area, and Russia brings them to fight in the other battles, right? The battle up here, the battle here, the battle here. And in fact, I think it was the British Ministry of Defense said the same thing today. They had intelligence that the Russians were moving some of their troops from the Kherson region where the flood was to the east to fight in the ongoing battles. Well, if Ukraine crossed the border here, or the border, not the border, but crossed the water here into Russian-controlled territory, then all of a sudden, the Ukrainians are fighting here. The Russians have left. So the Russians go, oh, crap, we've got to come back. So could Ukraine be planning a larger offensive in Kherson in that area? Maybe. Could Ukraine be doing it just to trick the Russians and force them to bring the troops back? For sure. Anyway, but that was one bit of sort of good news today. Let me see here. Oh yeah, another bit of good news. Not a huge amount of news, but I always tell you, any advance by the Ukrainians is good because it could be a Russian advance, and if Russian advanced, it would be bad. But Ukraine, confirmed by Ukrainian troops and confirmed by Russian military bloggers, so this seems to be true. Thank you, Crazy American, for the heart. Ukraine confirmed the liberation of Piatihutki. No, Piatihutki. Oh my God, these names are insane. That one I won't even try to spell. Piatihutki, which is, I believe, around here-ish. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it, okay? So around here, it is the 8th village that Ukraine has liberated in the last week. It is a small village. The village is so small that the name of the village, thank you, 863, for that, and I would block me. The name of the village means 5 houses. Literally, Piatihutki means 5 houses. Piats, I know, Piats is 5. So it's a small town. Thank you, Lori. But it's Ukraine winning towns and not Russia winning towns. That's important, right? But again, going to be slow, but positive news. Let me look here. Ukraine reportedly downed, Ukraine reportedly downed several helicopters this weekend. Thank you, Slava, for the hat there. I appreciate it on TikTok. Ukraine reportedly downed several Russian attack helicopters. ABC News reported on 2 of them being downed this weekend. I also heard reports that another 2 or 3 of them may have been downed. Now, this is important because, thank you, Martin, Russia has been using attack helicopters really effectively against the Ukrainian counteroffensive troops, so that if Ukraine has been able to blow up at least 2 of them, according to ABC News, American ABC News, and as many as 5 of them, that's good because it shows that Ukraine is now, sort of figuring out how to better respond to the Russian attack with the helicopters. So that's great news. Let me do a quick little pitch let me look here. Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick little pitch on donations. So one of the ways you guys can support my work, I do this full time, as I said, doing it since the war broke out, like 15 months now, and not getting any money from anybody other than you guys, although you guys have been very generous. Thank you, Cheryl, for the gift. And that's why I keep hitting you guys up to be supporters. Now, probably the best way you can support me is going over to Kofi.com. It's ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys over there can find it at the bottom of the page right there, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys can find it linked in my profile. Thank you, Aaron or Ernie, for that. Go to my profile on TikTok, click the link. Thank you, Mel. And you'll see the link tree. Very first thing that comes up is my Kofi profile. Click it. And what you can do, which is really nice, is you can go and sorry, you threw me on that one, Roshan. although it's good. I didn't see it. So glad to see it, Stephen. We'll get to it in a second. What's good about Kofi is you can give a one-time donation, and it accepts like Apple Pay and all sorts of things that make it really easy. Thank you, Marcy. Or you can give monthly. And it works like Patreon. We try not to use Patreon. I mean, I've got a Patreon you can use if you have to, but Patreon is anti-Ukraine. And they've threatened me. They threatened a lot of Ukrainian creators. So I'm just trying to stay away from Patreon. They're unfortunate. I used them for 5 years. They're bad people, apparently, which is really too bad. But they're in cahoots with there's been reports also of they refused to pull out of Russia like all the other companies did. They did. So not some bad news about Patreon. I'm really bummed about this. Seriously, I used Patreon for 5 years for my podcast and everything else. So I'm very upset about this, but we moved over to Kofi.com instead. You guys can find the link in my profile on TikTok. You guys have it at the bottom of the screen, and it allows you to donate one time or donate monthly. And the monthly is pretty easy to set up. And added benefit, thank you, Slava, or I should say, Jaku, I think that's right. What you can also do with Kofi is if you set up a monthly subscription where you just support me every month, you can cancel it whenever you want. It will make you a VIP member of my Discord community. Little bit more complicated. I explain on Kofi how to do it, create the Discord, blah, blah, blah. The instructions are there. But if you become a member of my Discord and you give monthly on Kofi, you're a VIP, which gives you access to some weekend shows that I do. Also our VIP auction, which I'll talk about the auction in a little bit, but really cool stuff we do with the auctions of neat stuff from Ukraine. So if you can help out, I'd appreciate it. It's ko-fi.com/Aravosis. Really important. Please. All right. Steven wants to see the map for Roshan because Steven's that kind of guy. Okay, Steven, you get the map. Woo-woo. There we go. Almost missed that one, so thank you. Other news, Russia is, this was interesting. Russia is refusing to let the United Nations into the area where the dam broke. Okay. Now, remember not even where the dam broke, but thank you for the June gift there. Was that Slava Ukraine? Thank you for that. They're refusing to let the United Nations relief organizations into this area south of the river that's controlled by Russia. It's Ukraine, but it's controlled by Russia, where the flood happened when the Russians blew the dam. The north area they can go into because Ukraine controls it. The south area Russia controls. Think about this. Why would Russia not want to let United Nations relief workers into the area where the dam, put 30,000 lives at risk? Well, a couple of reasons. One, the lives are Ukrainian and the Russians don't care, which is interesting because Russia likes to claim that this land is Russian and all the citizens there now are Russian. Well, if they're all Russian, then why isn't Russia letting people in to save these folks, right? So that's the first problem. Secondly, Russia doesn't want anybody going in there because Russia doesn't want anybody, bingo, Veronica said on TikTok, hiding their crimes again. That is exactly right. Russia doesn't want anybody seeing what they did. It is widely believed that Russia blew up the dam. I say that because we still don't have the smoking gun, but there's a lot of smoke. There are satellite images showing an explosion at the dam. There are seismic readings showing an explosion at the dam. There are experts who reviewed the photos and reviewed the dam and the structure and everything else, who said there's no way the dam could blow up unless there was an explosion inside the dam. Okay. These dams are made. This dam was made by the Soviet Union. It was made, I was reading this the other day, it was made to withstand a NATO attack. In other words, NATO fighter bombers were supposed to not be able to blow this dam up. So the Ukrainians could not have blown it up from the outside. The Russians said, oh, it was Ukrainian artillery, right? But they shot missiles at it or whatever. The experts said, no, they didn't. There is no expert. There is no bomb that could, be from that the Ukrainians have that could be shot at it. I almost forgot, somebody on TikTok said intercepted phone calls. Good point. A Russian soldier last week or the week before intercepted phone call telling someone that, our guys did it. We had a hit squad go to blow up the dam, and they put the dam inside. So it is pretty darn clear at this point. Thank you, Azamak and TikTok Novice. It's pretty darn clear at this point that the Russians blew it up. And that's why they don't want anybody coming in, because they don't, oh, Marion's here. Woo! Everybody wish Marion a hello on TikTok and on YouTube. My friend Marion. As my French professor said to me when I was studying in France when I was 19, what was he say? Oh, Monsieur Aravosis, vous n'êtes pas toujours là, mais vous êtes toujours là. Which I'm showing off, but basically was, Mr. Aravosis, you're not always here, but you're always there. Basically meaning like I was always there with the funny comment. Like, but I would miss class a lot. So it was a great comment. Like, you're not always there, but you're always there. I still remember that thing. Like when I was 19, he was a nice guy, nice professor. The China. Yes. So Secretary Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, is in China today, met with Xi, the Chinese leader, and the Chinese reiterated their promise not to sell offensive weapons to Russia. Now, there was concern I read today, something about China possibly building, facilities to make drones in Russia. So, let's see. But nonetheless, it's good that they promised it, but, let's see. Russia today used a remote controlled tank bomb to do absolutely nothing. If somebody can help Groovy, if somebody on Twitch can help Groovy, I put his question or his or her question up. I can't see your picture without my glasses. Try to figure out sort of how to do the subscribing thing, etc. Oh, actually, let me just tell folks too for Twitch. What I'm doing now is I'm no longer going to do the weekend show on Twitch, but I'm still doing the Monday to Friday here. If you guys want to subscribe to help me out, and frankly, thank you, Bonnie, you'll be a VIP member on my Discord anyway. You can still subscribe on Twitch, and you want to direct the subscription to my Aravosis account. My Aravosis account is my subscription account, whatever you want to call it. So the affiliate account, I mean, so that's the one. Otherwise, if some Twitcher can help them, thank you so much. So we were saying, so Russia today, and all the experts are saying this is a complete joke. Russia today filled a tank with explosives and then drove the tank at the Ukrainian troops. It reportedly hit a mine, and then the Ukrainians used a shoulder-held, a rocket-propelled grenade, I believe, and blew it up. And they blew it up, and it was a nice, pretty explosion. Russia releases the video saying, oh, look how good we did. All the experts are basically saying, oh, hey, aloha, privit. All the experts are saying it's a joke what Russia did. I mean, literally, like, okay, you filled a tank with like weapons. They drive it part of the way, and then the guy driving the tank jumps out of the tank, and the tank keeps going. And like I said, and the Ukrainians blew it up anyway. So it didn't accomplish anything. It made a really big boom, according to Kelly. Correct. I saw the video, made a really big boom, didn't accomplish anything. And I saw actually General Hertling, a retired American general, very good guy, on CNN this afternoon. And he just said he goes, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they did this. Accomplished zero. There was a weird story today, maybe not weird, troubling, in the New York Times, that in the year 2000, so that would still be the Trump administration, Putin, thank you, Red Watts, Putin tried to kill a Russian defector who was living in America and providing information to the Americans. He was a former Russian intelligence officer, had given us lots of information that led to the arrest of a number of Russian. What do you call them? They're not the irregulars. What do you call them? The Americans, right? The Russians who basically hide in America, have regular jobs. Thank you, Red. Have regular jobs, and everyone thinks they're Americans, but they're not Americans. They're actually Russian spies, right? I forget what they sleep. They're sleeper agents, but there's another word for them. It is sleeper agents, yeah. But there's another word for them that I'm forgetting. It's not sleeper. I mean, you're correct, but it's like they're not irregulars. There's a word like that. There's a word that the CIA uses. Now, somebody out there who knows the spy stuff will know what I'm talking about. It's a CIA word that you use for that. Anyway, you know who you are out there. No. In any case, don't worry about it, guys. It doesn't matter. I'm going to have to Google it, but there's a word for it. Donkeys. Donkeys is about as close as we got. Now it's like irregular or some other word like that. In any case, Putin tried to kill the guy in the year 2000, which is very interesting. Didn't succeed, but what is worrisome about this is that up until now, from what we know, I don't think there's been, Yasas Sosat, good to see you in Thessaly. I don't think anyone have the Russians, did the Soviets ever, I'm trying to think, did the Soviets ever kill anybody in American soil? We had Chile famously did a car bomb in Washington, D.C. But thank you. Oh, I forgot about that, Bonnie. Thank you for that. I love that gift. But I don't remember whether there was anything else that we know of that they. Nope, Callum. It's a term of art used by the CIA to describe who these guys are. Yeah, used by counterintelligence. We'll find it. It's a term of art for them. But in any case, it's weird, and it means that the Russians have been. That Putin started pulling out all the stops 3 years ago. If this was 2000, he was willing to basically kill somebody on American soil. So this is a weird story too. Okay, I don't know if you guys had heard about this. There's this weird story about Hungary and their effort to get Ukrainian prisoners of war. It was a weird story. We heard about it a week ago, and it sounded like it wasn't a real story. It sounded like a crazy story. Hungary, and then a Hungarian official came out and confirmed it. Hungary worked with Russia to get a bunch of Ukrainian prisoners of war sent to Hungary, which is insane. And they're there now, and there may be 12 of them on Hungarian soil, but it gets worse. And this is where, and I knock Hungary because Hungary is a bad ally. They're a bad European ally, and they're a bad NATO ally. Hungary, the prisoners that were released by Russia, mind you, to Hungary, which is ridiculous. They should have been released to Ukraine. The prisoners are Ukrainian soldiers who are from the region of Zakarpattia. Zakarpattia, as I recall, is pretty much this region here where my friend Vlad lives. Oops, sorry, got to pull it over here. And where does it border? Hungary. Well, there's like 150,000 ethnic Hungarians in that area. They're Ukrainians, but they're ethnic Hungarians. Well, this appears to be Hungary, Orban, the wannabe dictator of Hungary, playing games again with the Ukrainians. Because he's worn scarves. They put out a video the other day. Thank you, Louis. They keep insinuating that part of Ukraine belongs to Hungary. This is not the kind of thing that one does in Europe. I mean, like, there have been so many wars fought in Europe over the borders, right? This is not the kind of thing you do. And they've been doing it repeatedly. I'm talking repeatedly in just the last few months. Illegals. Maybe illegals is the term I'm looking for. Thank you. Okay, Kay, I think that's it. I remember I was thinking irregular. It's illegals. That's what it is. Yep. I knew it was an I word. Yep. That's the word that the CIA uses for the sleeper agents that the Russians have in the US. They call them illegals. But it means, yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. It means these agents who are so American that nobody even knows they're Russians. Okay, that they literally, you think it's the TV series The Americans, by the way, wonderful TV series. Watch it; it's excellent. But in any case, so the Ukrainians are demanding answers from the Hungarians. The European Union or the European Commission is demanding answers from the Hungarians. The Ukrainians are demanding to be able to talk to their troops. Sorry, Alexander says it's not been months. Hungarians have been doing this for decades. It's a dicky move by the Hungarians. It is particularly obnoxious when you've got a war going on. It's particularly obnoxious when you've got Putin trying to partition and steal part of Ukraine. That the Hungarian leader 3 different times now has done things to suggest that Ukraine is Hungarian and that it belongs to Hungary. And what he did here was, these troops are presumably ethnic Hungarians, but they're Ukrainians. So Hungary got them because, they're not Ukrainian, they're Hungarian. So that's why they were released to Hungary, right? Like Ukraine stole them or something, like Ukraine kidnapped them or something. It is obnoxious as hell. I'm telling you, I really hope they find a way to swat Hungary around. And frankly, they really ought to just kick them out of NATO. I don't know the EU well enough to know whether you guys can say, that it's not worth having them in the EU, but so help me God, I wish we just kicked them out, Anyway, beep. Oh yeah, another trial today. So the trial of Alexei Navalny, the latest trial, kicked in today in Russia. Navalny, you'll recall, is the top opposition leader in Russia. Putin accused, he's in jail because Putin's scared of him. Okay, he's the top opposition guy. Putin's scared of him, threw him in jail. I believe in jail for like 12 and a half years, something like that. While he's in jail, Putin accuses him of treason and says Navalny has been committing acts of terrorism and all this kind of garbage. Mind you, Navalny's in like high security prison in Russia. He's not committing any acts of anything, right? Putin accuses him of committing acts of terror while he's in prison, mind you. And the acts of terror cover another 30-year sentence. So they just started the trial today. It's really sad. I mean, Navalny's been on a hunger strike and he clearly has lost a lot of weight. Thank you, Bonnie. Just really bad news. Couple more stories. Oh, actually, I know. Let me show you my Discord, and then I've got 2 funny stories to show you really quick, or to tell you. I'll show you the Discord. So remember, I talked about using Kofi.com, which I hope you will. It's ko-fi.com and /Aravosis. Excuse me, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys have got it at the bottom of the screen here for you guys. You guys can find it in my profile, or actually just go to Aravosis.com. If you go to Aravosis.com, for you guys on TikTok, that link will take you to my page of links. The very top thing is Kofi. Kofi is what you use to support my work monthly or one time. But if you do monthly, it will also make you a VIP member of my Discord community. You got to register on Discord for free. It's complicated, but trust me, it's not that hard. I've got the instructions over at Kofi. But one of the reasons I say, we do have some benefits is you become a VIP member of our Discord community. Thank you, Lee. And that gives you access to our VIP auction. I've got 2 auctions over there. One auction is for the public at large because the Discord is meant to be free. It's a chat community for you guys to come. We talk about lots of different topics, politics, sports, cooking, dogs, you name it, pets. But also we talk about Ukraine a lot. Our Ukraine forum is clearly the most popular. I'm there all day. A lot of other, meaning I check in all day long. A lot of folks do too. So it's also a good place to go if you want to ask me questions or chat. I'm available. Pretty much I respond to everybody. I mean, I pretty much see every question that's asked, so I respond to everybody. But we also have auctions of cool stuff I get from Ukraine, and it's stuff that I then sell. I don't sell it. I auction it to you guys, and the proceeds I split between me and Ukraine. Just because I thought it would, why not help Ukraine if I can? Thank you, Lee and Jetta. So we've sent probably around 10,000. I've got to do the numbers again, but we've sent probably $10,000 back to Ukraine just from the auction revenues. Like I said, 50% of your guys' winning bid send Ukraine. 50% goes to me to support my work because I do it for free. And as I said, I need to support my work to do the show. But let me show you just 2 or 3 things that we've got auctioning this week. One is really neat. Our wonderful friend and co-member of this group here of our forum, CK Ariette, thank you, Donick, has made, she makes earrings as a hobby. I mean, as a hobby. It is a hobby, I guess. It's a side profession she has, making earrings. And she made these using a real Ukrainian Vyshyvanka pattern. And we're auctioning, turn this so you can see with the light on them. And I'm auctioning these off. Well, here, you can see how big they are. Oops. You can see how big they are this way. So this is the first thing. I mean, I've got 10 things. That's why I'm only showing you 3. Second thing, authentic Ukrainian military patch. This is one of the more popular ones. I've got a photo up in the auction that shows one of the Ukrainian officials wearing it. They wear the patch on the arms or on the chest or wherever. So we've got one of these. And the other thing, I mean, there's 10 things. The other thing, one of my favorites is, hang on, we've got the sweatshirts that Zelensky wears. These are the sweatshirts, and we actually went to the store. We found the store and bought the same sweatshirts from the same store that Zelensky gets them. And they're very nice sweatshirts. I mean, they're very soft and comfortable. Like I think 85% cotton. I've got it in the auction. But these are the sweatshirts that he was wearing last fall and winter when he came to the U.S. and spoke to a joint session of Congress, when he went to the White House, when he went to the UK and he spoke to, I think it was the House of Commons. I mean, the Parliament. This is what he was wearing, these sweatshirts. So we got them. They're very cool. Why would they auction a military patch? They're not auctioning it. I'm auctioning it. A lot of people, well, it's a military patch. We got it and we're auctioning it. It's quite simple. But no, a lot of military people like to collect patches and things. So people will sell their patches. They'll give them away, lots of things like that. So that's what they are. In any case, all right, let me go on. 2 more stories. Funny stories. Oh, this was great. I watched a video today. Russian officials are claiming, and so you can get all those things, Brittany, in our Discord community, discord.aravosis.com. You can sign up for free, check out the auctions. Half the auctions are free. Well, they're not free. You know what I mean? Half the auctions are for everybody. You don't have to be a paying member. And the other half, the VIP auctions, are only for our monthly paid members that you can access on Kofi.com. Or you can, Discord also has a pay function you can use if you want. A little bit better on Kofi. You probably get a better rate on Kofi, to be honest. And I'd probably get a better rate, but that's fine either way. But anything via any of the monthly contributions, check it out. It's pretty much $7.99 a month is how it works. For the VIP, $7.99 a month. Any case, Moscow today accused the U.S., they accused this before, but they did it again today, of using infected mosquitoes to attack Russia. That in the aftermath of the flood, there's all this disease and everything else, and America is taking advantage of it by using infected mosquitoes to send at the Russians. And we even have a patent on how to use them, and they showed the patent and all sorts of crazy stuff. The other thing is, I want to show you the picture, really funny. This picture went around today, and a lot of credible accounts were sharing it, so I think it's real. This is, I'm going to show you a small and then the large picture. This is the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian military, Zaluzhny. I'll show you, okay? And remember how I've got like the military patch I was showing you? Military guys and gals wear patches. The patches identify their unit, what branch they're in. Are they Are they Marines? Are they Air Force? What are they? And sometimes they're fun and funny. Well, his patch today, right in the middle. I'm going to go really close, see if you can tell. I think you can tell. It's a little bit blurry when I get close, but I think you can tell. Here, I'll show you guys. He literally wore this today, according to a number of different reporters. So it looks like it's real. It's Baby Yoda. He wore the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces wore Grogu. Exactly. Grogu, a Baby Yoda patch. I mean, I love these guys. I just think there's something about them. There's a spirit that's really awesome. Yeah, so we were saying this is the way. Now, Dom, I don't know if you meant that as a gift or had a question. If you had a question, feel free to post it. If you just meant it as a gift, thank you. So, and that's it for the news. All right, let me look really quick. What was this? Okay, that's it for the news. Let me do the thank you, Nicholas. No skill. Let me just look here. Okay, and Dom, like I said, if you had a question, feel free to post it, Dom. And mods, make sure. Oh, you didn't? Okay. Oh, no, did you? Okay. Dom is saying, did you see the cholera outbreak Russian troops are going through in Crimea? Whole units. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I read today that and thank you for that, by the way. I read today that there was a cholera outbreak, but I thought it was just in, actually, I heard it quickly, so I'm not necessarily correcting you. You might be right. When I heard it, I thought they meant there was a cholera outbreak in the flood area because the Russians really are ignoring the people in the flood. There were a good 40,000. Well, on the Russians. Okay, this is all Ukraine, but Russia occupies this side. So on the Russian side, the Russian occupied side, there were a good 25,000 people who were in immediate danger of dying, and another clearly hundreds of thousands of people who were flooded out. And I heard about cholera, but I thought the cholera was just in the area overall. If it's in Crimea, that's very interesting because Crimea is all the way down here, folks. The Russians stole Crimea in 2014. Oh, it's the dam area. Okay, it's the dam area. Okay, there you go. Thank you. I didn't mean to correct you because I was thinking I didn't pay attention to the story other than hearing about it. So it is in the dam area. So there's a cholera outbreak in the area around here, not in Crimea. In the area around here where the flooding broke out, and the Russians basically just said to hell with it. They wouldn't let rescuers in. Remember, I told you they wouldn't even let the UN. Today, the UN rescuers asked to get in there, and they said no. Yep, E. coli as well. Yep. Well, Odessa's having some issues because it was something like 30% of the water that was tested downriver is coming up like scary polluted, like E. coli and that kind of stuff, right? And Odessa is right here. So the river goes downriver. This super polluted river is now emptying out into here. It goes along the spit. And then once you see the spit, once it goes along the spit up here, then it's free to go where it wants. But it only has to go from here to hit the town of Odessa. So it's hitting Odessa. Really, really scary. Wow. That's wild. Yeah. Any case, yeah, I had heard about it, but didn't really look into it in depth. Yeah. Thank you for that. Exactly. It washes up on the beaches, etc. And actually, they were also saying, I think they said in Mykolaiv today, which is the town here, this is free territory, right? North of the river is free. They were telling people not to drink the water because they're afraid now that the water base has been polluted, or at least for right now. So it's affected even this far north, which is, again, free and everything else, but all right, I'll pull up a TikTok question. Actually, remember on TikTok, guys, the easiest way to submit questions is go to my profile and look for the link that says Q&A for question and answer. Click it and submit questions there because they stack up that way. I can see on the screen, but they kind of fly by on the screen and I don't always see it. That way they're there and I'll see it. For you guys, obviously you can put it at the bottom of the screen. But you can also do super chat and super stickers as well if you like. I'm not going to get mad. I'll pull up Dom's now. Thanks, Dom, for that. And please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok as well. Let me pull up my TikTok app now so I can check out Q&A. Do you think the U.S. would still go to war against China over Taiwan? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually talking to Vlad about that this weekend. And hang on a second, quick sip of water. I was talking to, okay, Dan, I don't know if that was a joke or what, but don't do that again. Sorry, on YouTube. Like, very not cool. Like, unless she's your best friend, you don't get to write stuff like that. Like, that's kind of sexist too. Like, no, do not do that again. They actually delete that comment as well, but do not do that again. I know, but it's not a joke. All right. I was going to say, because that's like, yeah, I mean, I see it and I'm like, all right. Sorry. People were joking. It didn't look like a joke. Would you guys go to war with China? I was talking to Vlad about that this weekend. And yeah, the problem China sort of has with this is Taiwan is very much in sort of the U.S. strategic interest. The U.S. sort of came slowly to appreciate that that Ukraine is also in our national interest to defend. Taiwan will take no appreciation. I mean, it will take no time at all. U.S. already thinks that way. U.S. has already made clear over the years, even though we like to sort of take this ambiguous approach. I forget what we call it. What's the approach we call it in with our policy versus Taiwan? It's sort of this ambiguity where we never say we're going to go to war over it, but maybe. And Biden said like 4 times that we're going to war over it. He said we will go to war. Strategic ambiguity. That's it. Thank you. I knew the word ambiguous. Strategic ambiguity. Thank you, Susan. You're always generous and sweet. I appreciate that. Biden said 4 times we would go to war over it. America, it just for, I hate to say it, but this crassly, just for the computer chips alone. I mean, Taiwan controls and makes the majority of the top the overwhelming majority of the best computer chips in the world come from Taiwan, period. There is no way China can be permitted to get their hands on that. I mean, if you want to look at it just from a strategic perspective, the Republicans hate the Chinese, absolutely hate the Chinese. Here in the States, thank you, B. Smith, for the gift on TikTok. The Republicans refer to the Chinese as the Communist Party of China. Whenever like when they were talking about that spy balloon, they said the Communist Party of China's spy balloon, right? They're always, they loathe China because to them, and they're not wrong, it's a communist dictatorship. I mean, they're not wrong, but there is a visceral hatred among the Republicans for and when I say the Chinese, you know what I mean, for China. So that I guarantee you a Republican would absolutely go to war because absolutely. A Democrat, I think a Democrat might be 2% less. A Republican would be 100% and a Democrat might be 98%. Even Donald Trump, I think, would be forced to go to war over Taiwan. So yeah, there's no question there. I think no question at all. And it's also the fear that if they were to get away with taking Taiwan, what happens in the rest of the region with China? I think so. I think so. In any case, yeah. So there. All right, let's go on. All right, Dan, don't worry. As long as you guys said it was being sarcastic and you all knew it, that's fine. That's fine. Oh, is Harvey there today? I haven't seen Harvey in a while. Is Harvey Kittle there? I just see you guys mentioning Harvey. Hope you're okay, Harvey. Oh yeah, I don't even go with the different names, but yeah. All right. Not thrilled. Robadub is saying my opinion on South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and recent events. Not thrilled. So the South African and I think 2 other leaders, I think it was 2 others, go to Ukraine and then go to Russia in the last 5 days or so on a peace mission. This is after South Africa, the U.S. announced, was secretly shipping weapons to Russia, like in violation of the sanctions. South Africa denies it, but please. South Africa is totally in Russia's pocket, which is kind of screwed up. The South Africans say they're in Russians' pocket because the Soviet Union supported South Africa against apartheid, right? And let's face it, for a while, our country was not great on that issue. Thank you, Lupa, for that. And because the Soviets were so good in supporting South Africa, that's why they support, Russia, and that's why they're kind of supporting Russia in the war, even though they don't admit it. Except that, of course, the Soviet Union was not just Russia. The Soviet Union was also Ukraine. So if they're trying to say we're supporting Russia with so much because Russia supported us, Ukraine supported you too against apartheid because they were part of the Soviet Union. So why aren't you supporting Ukraine? South Africa's playing games. Honestly, I think they got bribed. I think the Russians bribed them. I really do. The Russians bribed these guys and have got them eating out of their pocket now so that they don't freaking care. The South African government doesn't freaking care. Totally happy to be the new imperialists. So in any case, I think they finally worried about it a little bit. So they go to Kyiv on this peace mission and they've got some BS peace plan that basically is a Russian peace plan. While they're there, the South African president's spokesman, South African leader, and the other African leaders are there. The Russians bomb when they're there, just to show you how insignificant South Africa is to Russia and how insignificant Africa is to the Russians. The Russians are there to use them. The Russians literally bombed Kyiv when the African delegation was in Kyiv. They bombed it. These guys get seen by a Reuters reporter. They have to run into a hotel and run into the bomb shelter because the Russians are bombing them. And what does the spokesman for the South African president do? He responds to an official tweet from somebody saying, oh, yes, bombs just, the Russians are attacking Kyiv. Sirens just went off. He responds to it, the spokesman for the South African president, goes, what bombs? We don't hear, what sirens? There are no sirens. We're here. There were no sirens at all when we were here. Basically saying that the Ukrainians are lying about the Russian bombing attack. Reuters comes out with its story and goes, the Reuters reporter saw the South African delegation run for cover into a hotel, into the bomb shelter. South Africa felt the need to just lie today to cover Russia's ass. I mean, so honestly, I think this much about South Africa. I think it is a corrupt country, and I think it is, like I said, the Russians bought them. South Africa is now the country of imperialism. They are the white imperialists that oppress them. That's who they are. They're as bad as any white imperialist sellout, and that's who they become. It reminds me, it's Animal Farm, right? Remember when the oppressed animals become the oppressive animals, and you see them actually morph? You see them like morph from little farm animals. No, remember? They morph from pigs smoking cigars into big fat men smoking cigars. That's what South Africa is. They morphed from oppressed black people into oppressive white people. So you asked, you got an answer. No, it sickens me because I believe this. Madeleine Albright had said this about women, and a bunch of younger women didn't get it. And I think that's also a problem of generations, unfortunately. But they don't get that. Thank you, Martin. Madeleine Albright used to say, there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. Well, she said this in 2016 about the Hillary running for president. And all these young women got so upset and, oh my God, and this kind, I don't know, who the hell knows why. I have always believed that you have as a minority, as somebody who's oppressed, and it doesn't, you could be, mind you, these are different categories. The Ukrainians aren't a minority, but the Ukrainians are oppressed. When you are people who are oppressed, people who have been oppressed, you have a special responsibility to not repeat the same sin, but also to help others who are in trouble. And I really believe that. And that's what Albright meant by that. And that's why I would heap so much scorn on the South Africans, because it's bad enough somebody who's like oppresses people, but somebody who was oppressed turning around and oppressing people, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're even worse. Like, you should know better. I mean, everybody should know better. Obviously, I'm not going to let Russia off the hook. They're bad people too here. But my God, it takes a special kind of bad person to have had the crime happen to you and then commit the crime against somebody else. I mean, that's a whole other level of screwed up. Any case, enough about South Africa. More questions. I got everybody talking about South Africa now on YouTube. I don't know enough about it. I mean, Nippon's asking about, should we be worried about Liman and Kupiansk? Getting very in the weeds here, but there were reports, I think, that the Russians were moving more troops into Liman and Kupiansk. Now, as I recall, I'm going to say, we haven't talked about these towns in a long time. I'm going to say more or less they're up here-ish. From what I recall, they're up here-ish. Because I remember Kupiansk was like right on the river. I think Kupiansk was on the river. And then, actually, Severodonetsk, you got across and you had, anyways, whatever. A number of towns there. I don't know enough about what's happening there other than supposedly the Russians were sending more reinforcements. So don't know. We don't know, I think, either, obviously, as far as what's happening there. But yeah, don't know. I thought I'd mention it just because there was some report on it today. Beep, 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 beep. Nah, I don't think so. John Judge is saying, is there anything about Russians in the U.S. we need to watch, sabotage or spying? Not Russian Americans, no. Russian diplomats, of course. There isn't a Russian diplomat who isn't a spy. I don't think there's a single one. I mean, the Soviets were the same way. I doubt there's a Russian diplomat who isn't a spy. So though we should be keeping an eye on, and I'm sure we are keeping an eye on them. You know, absolutely. We have lurking trolls. Oh, I'm sure we do. That's okay. As soon as they put their heads out, bop, the mods will get them. Thank you, Tom, for the dancing cactus. Please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube. Just wanted to see, were there any? Well, actually, there was I don't know about a cartoon book. Sarah was saying I didn't know there was a cartoon version of George Orwell. There is an animated film about Animal Farm. And I remember seeing it when I was younger. And at one point, the pigs, because remember the pigs, like some of the pigs betray the other pigs. And one of the famous sayings is some pigs are more equal than others. Because first it was all pigs are equal. And then the pigs that are becoming like the Animal Farm, amazing story. The animals take over the farm, kind of like the sharks did, those sharks attacking those boats in the documentary today. The animals kind of say they've had enough. They overthrow the overlords of the farm, the men, and they take over. Except now the pigs take over. From what I recall, the pigs take over the farm, and the pigs start now oppressing the other animals, first of all, and then the pigs start oppressing the other pigs. So some pigs are more equal than others because the law was all pigs. I think the law was all animals are equals. And then the pigs changed it to all pigs are equal. So all the animals aren't equal, but the pigs are. Then the pigs changed it to some pigs are more equal than others. And you see this image of these pigs smoking these pipes, and the image all of a sudden morphs and they become the men smoking the cigars. So they literally become the men. It's an amazing story. I mean, I read the book too forever ago. I have to read it. I have to read it again because it's been so long. Thank you to us for that. And Fred, that's it. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. That's it. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. What a great line too. More equal. I mean, just brilliant. Oh God. Yeah. 4 legs. Oh my God. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. They had like all of these different rules. The guinea pigs don't agree. Anyway, amazing. It's an amazing story. Let me see. Any more questions on TikTok? As I said, TikTok, unfortunately, made it harder for you guys to submit questions. It used to be really easy. They used to put it in the actual live. And I think now, I don't think it works anymore that way. And it cut down on the questions, but I've got a few more from you guys. Boy, I don't know that kind of detail. Give Me Food was asking about what non-NATO countries are doing for Ukraine. For example, F-18s from Australia. I mean, that's all I really know. I know that Australia is negotiating with Ukraine, the U.S., and a company. I believe a private company either bought or put a contract to buy a bunch of the Australian F-18s. And Australia, thank you, Tom, Australia was negotiating with, I think, like the company, the U.S. and Ukraine about Ukraine possibly getting those F-18s if they didn't get American F-16s in time. Thank you, Tom. That's all I know. I don't know. This was probably 2 weeks ago now, so I don't even know where it is now. But I mean, as far as other countries that aren't NATO, I have no idea. I mean, I know, Japan helped some. South Korea, actually, South Korea surprised us by actually giving, I think, artillery shells that we didn't know they provided. Thank you, Vicky, for the crown. So that was good news, but otherwise, I don't know. Oops, sorry. Oh God, people are still discussing Animal Farm. You guys crack me up. Over on YouTube, they're having a big Animal Farm thesis, which is not a bad thing. Do you think it would be a good idea? This is Nick. Do you think it would be a good idea for Ukraine to join NATO when Ukraine was in a war? In general, no, but Germany was split in two, and Germany joined NATO, right? 1955, I believe it was. If Germany could join NATO, then you've got some arguments for how Ukraine could join NATO, because Ukraine is split in two as well, not in half, but in two. The Russians control this part. Since 2014, the Russians have controlled Crimea. Now they control this. Whatever happens by the end of the war, we hope Ukraine gets everything back. But if they don't, so I'll get rid of Jeff's comment. Thanks, Jeff. Even if they don't get, Ukrainians don't get everything. Okay. Either Ukraine gets everything back or Ukraine doesn't get everything back. If they don't get everything back, that's like Germany not getting everything back, right? Germany lost half the country, but I think it was more like a third. If you look at the map, I don't know the exact 30, 40%, whatever it was for the Germans, that became East Germany. They even lost Berlin. Half of Berlin or a quarter of Berlin was what became East Berlin and was ceded to the Soviets, the Russians. If you can let that into NATO, why can't you let Ukraine in? Now, the thinking is, which before I thought of the German example made sense. The thinking is, you don't want somebody who's literally like at war, right? If they've got occupying troops on their soil, it's only a matter of time before war breaks out again. And we don't want to all get sucked into another war. Well, you could have argued let everybody else into NATO, but not West Germany at the time, right? Why not? So it's very weird. Very weird. I found the whole thing a little strange. So in any case, yeah, I see the arguments. Okay, I'll go look. Thank you, Magical Photo, for the question. I understand the arguments, and it makes sense in the sense that you don't want to let somebody in who's at war, because then you're all going to war. But how did we do it with Germany? But having said that, it is problematic. It is, because let's face it, everyone in NATO is supposed to defend everybody else if war breaks out. So, yeah, no word on this. Daniel's asking, any word on war, Gonzo? Wouldn't it be funny if Ukraine got his phone? P.S. I've quit drinking South African wine. So, that's funny. Daniel O'Neill, with a very generous question, is asking about a Russian military blogger named Semyon Pegov or something like that. And his, nom de plume is probably more like it, is War Gonzo. He's got a Patreon, because Patreon's okay with Russians making with Russian war criminals making money off of them. That's okay. The rest of us, not so clear. But there was a report today that he may have been captured and possibly even killed. Reportedly, there was a video going around. I didn't see the video. I saw some photos. I saw a report. Thank you, Carol, for the hat on TikTok. There was a report that people I trust on TikTok was sharing, but it wasn't clear where they got the report from. So we don't know. I saw no update by the end of the day. It would be great if they got him. This is one of Russia's top propagandists in the war. So whatever they did to him, I don't know, but if they did something to him and caught him, that would be great. I'll try not to opine on what happens if he was killed, but if they captured him, that would be very good news, because he was a big deal. So we'll see. And it's not just a big deal for karma. It's a big deal for morale too, because we're talking having captured, one of Russia's top war. Thank you, Mustard. One of Russia's top war propagandists. So yeah, that's interesting. No, I've been dying to get more information on it, but don't know anymore. Yeah, I don't know anymore. Don't have any more information than that. Oops, sorry. Thank you for that. Now let me see if I can find Magical Photos question on here. Thank you, Lee Atwater, the guy with the funny name. Isn't it better if the free world always has a bigger army than the non-free world? Then that's a good thing. Well, it depends how you look at it, right? If for example, if you're talking about nuclear weapons, okay, Susan, if you've got a spouse, Susan, they're going to start getting jealous soon. Like, who's this guy you're giving the money to? Because you can tell them it's his dog. Thank you for that, Susan. That's very sweet of you. If you're talking nuclear weapons, Russia likes to say how they've got more nuclear weapons than America. And, the Russians have 6,000 nuclear weapons. And I forget whether we've got 1,700 active weapons or something, but we may have 5,000 total. I have not been keeping up with the arms control agreements entirely, but Russia has more nukes than us, but it doesn't matter. And the other day, I'm pretty sure it was Secretary Blink. I don't know if it was Secretary Blinken who said this or whether it was the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, but they said it doesn't matter if Russia has more nukes than us. We've got enough to fight back, and that's all we need. And the point is, at least with nuclear weapons, but again, this is different than conventional weapons. With nuclear weapons, you just need enough to survive where you can destroy the other guy. In other words, the other guy attacks you first, you're not expecting it. He destroys the worst case scenario. You figure out how many he destroys, and then the number of nukes that America has left, if we shoot them back at Russia, will we destroy Russia? We believe we've got more than enough to destroy Russia if we fight back. And then it's the end of the world. That's all you need to mutually assure that we don't attack each other. So that's the whole underlying theory of nuclear weapons, at least from an American perspective, where we don't want to have to use them. From Russia's perspective, they're a little more loosey-goosey with using the nukes. But the idea is we don't have to have more than them. With conventional forces, it's kind of the same kind. It kind of depends what you're trying to do. I mean, with the Russians, with the Soviets, we wanted to have, again, I don't want to jump into territory that is over my head in terms of sort of military strategy here, but I could imagine a couple different possibilities. One, you want to have a strong enough force to deter the other guy from attacking you or attacking your vital interests. For example, convincing China not to attack Taiwan. But you also need a big enough force. Well, you also need a big enough force that you can win. Like, you don't just want it to be bloody, you want to be able to win. So in Taiwan, for example, there were some war games done either earlier this year or at the end of last year that showed that it would be bloody, but America would win, but it would be really bad. We'd lose a lot of people, we'd lose a lot of ships, a lot of planes, but we would win. So, in any case, I may not look at it as a balancing of who's got more. You basically want enough that you can deter. Now, mind you, here's the final point, and this is where it gets tricky. But do we have enough weapons to beat Russia and China both attacking us at the same time, right? You get into sort of that kind of situation where it could get more complicated, right? Or all of a sudden, had Russia not been in a situation where they got destroyed by Ukraine in the last year, if Russia were to give all its weapons to support China in a war in Taiwan, anyway, you get it. It's complicated figuring out how many is enough, but generally speaking, as a country, you want to figure out what your top threats are, and you want to make sure that you're prepared to address those threats. And the final point I'll give you is, at least at one point, I don't know that U.S. doctrine is doing this anymore. At one point, the U.S. military doctrine was we had to be able to fight a two-front war. In other words, we had to be able to fight a war in Asia and a war in the Middle East. We had to have the military of forces to do that. I believe when the Cold War died, when the Soviet Union died, I believe we cut that back. I don't know where that stands today. And I think it was Edsel. Actually, Callum, I did see it. Well, Callum's here, as is Colonel Mustard. I don't know if Edsel's here as well, but if some of you guys are here and maybe want to weigh in, is NATO's strategy or U.S. strategy still to be able to fight a two-front war? Because at one point we did get rid of that. I think it was when the Soviet Union fell. It wasn't until somebody retired in 2009. Okay, that's good. Whether NATO's strategy is to be able to fight a two-front war. Okay, Edsel's there. We can fight a two-front war. Okay, because at one point I thought we cut back a little. At least that was the talk when the Soviet Union went away. But in any case, so you get into that analysis as well of how much weapons is enough. Well, maybe we've got enough to fight China, but do we have enough to fight a two-front war? What if Russia were to invade the Baltic state? Forget Ukraine. We go to war with China over Taiwan, and Russia says, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to finally take Poland and take the Baltic states. Would we have enough to fight that front and the Chinese front? So you need even more weapons to do that. So calculating how many weapons this is also, by the way, why I'm sympathetic to this. I think it is not as easy as people say when they go, we spend $860 billion on weapons. That's too much. That's as much as this much on education. Well, maybe, but there's a lot of scenarios we've got to prepare for. Whatever. I mean, I'm sympathetic, but I'm not sympathetic, in any case. Oh, that's interesting. I do not know that. Syndicate says, I think they call it a 360-degree security now, meaning that NATO is prepared to respond to threats from any direction. Interesting. Wilson Pava, use of nukes is just mad. Bigger is always better. Wilson's making a joke on mutual assured destruction. The MAD strategy is mutual assured destruction. And the idea was that we have enough nukes and they have enough nukes that we are mutually assured of destroying each other. And as long as both of us know it, neither of us will use them against each other, because we know if we use them first, the other guy will kill us. If they use it first, we'll kill them. So it's not worth doing. Or you can imagine yourself, if you want to kill your neighbor and he wants to kill you, if you're guaranteed that if you kill your neighbor, he will kill you, you probably won't do it. Well, in principle. And the same thing, your best defense is that in return. A stupid example, but you get my point. All right, let's do a few more questions and then maybe we can call it. It's already 7:12. I wouldn't mind going to Discord for a little bit tonight. Let me look for another. What's going on with the Wagner group? Hard to say, because that's a whole issue of Prigozhin. I'm trying to think, I haven't read it yet. New York Times or Washington Post did a big story today on Prigozhin and basically why he's not killed. I mean, why? Because he's the guy, the head of the Wagner group, which is the mercenary group in Russia. And he's been causing Putin a lot of heartburn. And it's just, it's curious as to why Putin's letting him get away with it. And I don't know. I don't know why. I did see that. Yeah, Alexander from Ukraine is saying, have you heard about Milosevic's son popping up in Moscow? Yeah, the son of Slobodan Milosevic. Milosevic was the guy in charge of Serbia when we bombed the hell out of them because they were trying to kill the Kosovars back in 1999-ish or so. And Milosevic, U.S. International Criminal Court, war crimes, dies in prison, I think 2006, Well, the Russians, I believe, decided to put mind you, he's a freaking war criminal. The Russians decided to put a statue of him up, of Milosevic, and Milosevic's son came for the statue unveiling. So yes, I did see that. Yeah. And honestly, that's more of the whole BS of the Russians just trying to rehabilitate all the worst of the Soviet years. And they're slowly getting rid of the memorials and things, memorializing the victims of Stalin. They're starting to get rid of that stuff. It's really sick. I mean, it's really sick. Not to mention, I remember being in Kamchatka back in 1993. And it's already, okay, granted, it's only 2 years after the Soviet Union fell, but it's 2 years later. They no longer have communism. And there was still a big statue of Lenin in the town square. And I remember the weirdest, Lenin was always there. And I forget how he had there, all the Lenin statues had the arm in the air. You know what I mean? Like this. And really creepy. Yeah. In any case. Then again, Canada and Australia still have the Queen on their money. So, I jest. When I went to Canada for the first time, I found it very funny that there were pictures of the Queen on the money. And I get it, they're part of the Commonwealth, but I was like, yeah, you're part of the Commonwealth, but you're not really part of the Commonwealth. She's your head of state, but she's not really your head of state. You know what I mean? Like, you don't actually believe that. Why is she on your money? It just makes me, as an American, it makes me laugh, but I realize maybe for you guys it isn't strange. Any case, all right, I'm going to call it quits here, guys. Let's do I'll do a quick summary of the news we covered today, and then we go to the Discord and hang out for a little bit. We go to the Discord and we hang out in the John's After Party section, which is in the top left-hand corner of my Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. It's free. Go check it out. But there is a pay, a VIP section for people who want to pay. If you want to support my work, you can do monthly contributions either on Discord, where they might be a little more expensive, or over at Kofi.com. It's ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys have it at the bottom of the screen right there. You guys can find it in my profile. Thank you, Magical. I just click the link in my profile on TikTok. First thing that comes up is Kofi. Also, my other stuff comes up. You can use Aravosis. Either of you can use Aravosis.com, which is my page of links in general. You'll find my PayPal. You'll find my Venmo, lots of other ways of helping. But I do appreciate if folks can consider doing the monthly contributions at Kofi. All right, let me tell you the news we covered today. Day 480 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Sky News says that Kyiv's forces may have temporarily halted their counteroffensive to reevaluate their tactics. The New York Times says a British Defense Intelligence report said on Sunday that both armies were suffering significant casualties. Russia is getting better at this. According to the New York Times, Russian forces have improved their defenses, artillery coordination, and air support. large Russian military stockpile. Oh, yes. Reportedly, Ukraine blew up 12 Russian military stockpiles in the last day or two, which is huge, including one or two really, really huge ones in Kherson province, which is sort of the south, sort of directly south. Which is good because you often do that in preparation for an invasion of the area because you're trying to basically blow up the weapons that would be used in that area against you. Ukraine government and Russian military bloggers both confirmed the liberation of Piatihudki in Zaporizhia. It's a small town, not a very important town, but it is the 8th town liberated by the Ukrainians. And it matters because when it comes down to it, they're liberating towns and the Russians aren't. That's good. Well, Russians aren't capturing towns, I guess we'd say. We're not liberating. Illiberating towns. Ukraine reportedly downed at least 2 and as many as 5 Russian attack helicopters this weekend. Russia's refusing to let the United Nations enter its side of the damn disaster area to do humanitarian relief, which certainly makes it sound like the Russians, are guilty. China confirmed it won't supply weapons to Russia. Russia used a remote-controlled tank bomb. You want to subscribe to the real quick. Groovy Mander, you want to subscribe. My daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, is Aravosis Report Daily. The show to subscribe to is Aravosis. That is the one, if you're doing an actual subscription on Twitch, that's the one to subscribe to support my work. But the daily show today, the one you're on, obviously, the one you're on is Aravosis Report Daily. But the affiliate show is Aravosis. Russia used a remote-controlled tank bomb today, but it achieved absolutely nothing, and the experts kind of found it funny that Russia was doing that. So nobody should worry. So I'm changing my thermostat here. Nobody should worry about Russia's tank bomb. Russia sought to kill a Russian defector on U.S. soil in the year 2000. They were unsuccessful. Hungary is involved in some really weird. Oh, thank you, Groovy. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. The Hungarians are involved in some weird prisoner exchange or whatever, where the Russians have released some prisoners to Hungary because they might be ethnic Hungarians, and the Hungarians are involved because they're trying to screw with the Ukrainians and say that these guys aren't Ukrainian, they're Hungarian. I mean, it's all Hungary yet again playing games with Ukraine, claiming part of Ukraine as being Hungarian. It's obnoxious as hell. It's just obnoxious as hell. And at some point, somebody needs to come down hard on the Ukrainians. And I can hear the neighbor's dog playing in the hall. So we may have a little issue when my dog hears that, but hopefully she won't. A Russian court has opened the latest trial against Alexei Navalny, another BS trial. Putin is trying to put him in jail. He's in jail for 12 years. Putin wants to put him in jail for another 30 on more trumped up charges. Moscow accused the U.S. of using drones to send infected mosquitoes to attack Russians or something. And finally, Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Zaluzhny wore a military patch today in the shape of Baby Yoda right on his chest, and it was really kind of adorable. All right, guys, let's sign off. Thank you for the gifts, all of you. Thank you for showing up. And I will go over to Discord and we'll hang out for a few minutes, maybe not too long, but because then I'll let the dogs play in the hall and I've got to eat dinner. But we will go over to discord.aravosis.com and hang out in the section at the top left. That's John's after party. And make sure you check out the auctions. All 10 auctions end in 2 days. Lots of cool stuff. So check them out. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. I'll see you over at Discord for a little bit.